Alright, this video is about how to make sure you complete your interest inventory successfully. So the interest inventory really just means topic selection. But I wanted to call it interest inventory because it really is about what interests you, what you want to write about and research about. That's really key, because if you don't have something that you can't write about, or you don't want to write about, or you lose interest in, this is going to be a bad semester for you. So make sure you choose something that you're really truly interested in, and that's kind of the purpose of this. I want to give a shout out first to Ms. Tracy Mays. She's another English teacher at Highland. She helped me figure this out. This is kind of this assignment is based on her interest inventory, so if you know her, if you've seen her, say thanks for this interest inventory. I think it works really well. So let's go over the parts. Here they are. They're in Word documents, so you'll have to download them. Download each piece, then all of the parts are going to be turned in this interest inventory link right here. So here are the parts. So the first part, I know this says day 1. This is part 1. This is the brainstorming phase. So in this, you need to think about all of the possibilities of all of the things that you might want to write about or that you're interested in learning more about, and write them down. So notice that there are a bunch of different categories here: articles, documentaries, and books that you've read, local issues you've heard about, your hobbies and interests, any global issues that you're interested in or have heard about. This is a big one that a lot of people end up writing about, topics that arise in your future job field. So for example, if you're a nurse, you got all sorts of possibilities in there. Really, any job field has controversial topics that you can write about. General problems, concerns are things that worry you. This is a little bit more general. So for example, if you're interested in politics, you might put some political things here. If you're interested in climate change, this might be a thing that you put in here. If you're a parent and you worry about bringing kids up in this world, some of those kind of specific things you could put in here. Basic activities in which you engage, that's a little different from your hobbies and interests. So for example, I would guess that you wouldn't call going to school a hobby, but you're a college student, and there are lots of controversial topics around college students right now. So that might be something you put there. Questions that have arisen. These are questions that could turn into topics. So for example, what could happen to the climate if the volcano that's erupting continues to erupt in Hawaii? That might be a question. And then if there's anything that you really can't categorize but you're interested in it, you might put it here under miscellaneous. So as you're doing this, this is something that you should do kind of gradually. You should maybe print this paper out and kind of take it around with you for a couple days and jot down anything that arises, those shower thoughts or driving thoughts or 3 a.m. thoughts. Those are all things that you should put here. Once you have this done, you can move on to the second part. So this one, it says it can be handwritten. You'll notice that these directions are kind of for a face-to-face class, and I'm modifying them for an online class. So you do have to type this one, and you have to hand it in. The first one, this one, if you print it and you start handwriting on it, you can submit like a photo of it, or you can scan it or whatever, but the other two do need to be typed in a Word document. Okay, so from your first interest inventory, the one that you brainstormed, now we're moving on to narrowing a topic. So you've got some probably big categories of topics on that list. You need to choose 4 that you think that you could be interested in for the next 8 weeks and really do a big in-depth topic on. You need to narrow them down a little bit. So this one gives you an example. If you write school, you might narrow the topic to online instruction. You really need to start thinking of how can you narrow this down. Probably in your English 121, you did quite a bit of narrowing your topic. Maybe you used a bubble chart or different types of pre-writing activities. You should do that here. So then once you've kind of narrowed a little bit, pick your topics, type them kind of as a heading, and then you need to brainstorm 8 questions or more per topic using who, what, where, when, why, or how. So if you've ever narrowed a topic using who, what, where, when, why, or how, usually why is a big one, so you'll probably want to get at some of the whys. For example, if you were talking about doing that, using a helmet when skiing, you might say, what is the best way to mandate helmet use when skiing? You want something open-ended. So there are some forbidden topics on here. This is a partial list. If you go back to the Moodle, you'll see a no-go list. Please use that no-go list. That's a more updated list. And then there are some tips for types of questions. If you want to use these types of questions, you may. So, for example, if you're trying to get at a problem solution or a cause and effect or compare and contrast, you can use these types of questions. But if you're really just sticking to the who, what, where, when, why, that's okay too. So this one you have 4 general topics, at least 8 questions per topic, as open-ended as possible, trying to get at something debatable. So the whole point of this is to get to a question that leads to a debatable answer. So that's really key. Get to a question that leads to a debatable answer. Once you're done with that, you can move on to the third part. This is where you're actually doing some topic selection. You're really taking one of those questions that you had on the last part and building it into 2 possible topics. So you narrowed it down to 4 in the last part. Now you're narrowing it down to 2 from that 4. So 2 possible topics, and you're giving me a lot of kind of detailed information about those topics. So here's a sample. You put the topic, you choose one of your questions, hopefully an open-ended one. Then you answer that question. That debatable answer should give you a possible working thesis. This won't be your final thesis, but a working thesis. Explain why you think that, why that's your opinion. So give a little bit of maybe where you would go with that argument. And then start to think about the opposition. So who's on the other side of this? What points do they have? How valid are their points? Things like that. So it doesn't have to be a whole lot longer than this. This is just enough. But it needs to be detailed enough to give me kind of where you would go with that topic. Finally, once you get to this point, indicate in here somewhere on topic 1 or topic 2 which one you prefer, which one you really want to talk about. So that will help me, because at this point I'm going to try to give you some pointers or some guidelines and help you choose between these 2 topics. So if you tell me which one that you're leaning toward, that will help me out a lot as I give you feedback. For this one, you should make sure to use what you've learned in other English classes to help you. So for example, in other English classes you've written thesis statements. Think back to that as you're trying to do this. And overall, the purpose of this last part is to help you focus your research. So make sure you're as thorough and as thoughtful as you can be. One thing to remember, once you've chosen a topic, you're almost entirely locked in. There are some extenuating circumstances where perhaps you won't keep this topic, you'll switch your topic, but really for your own peace of mind and for your success in this very quick 8 weeks, you should really try to pick a topic here that you can stick with and you can get a lot out of. So you might want to do a little bit more legwork. For example, you might want to start looking at some of the research in the why and in the opposition, just to make sure that you can make these topics doable. Do everything you can to make sure that this topic is something you can run with. If you have any questions, hit me up on Remind or send me an email. Otherwise, good luck.